Now, this is a Champions League special, and we're going to talk about other things as well, including VAR and the scandal that has afflicted Manchester City. And we're going to talk to Hamann, one of the great players in the game, a Liverpool player, a Manchester City player as well. He was in the Liverpool team that won the Champions League in Istanbul in 2005. And when the penalty shootout came, Didi was the first man to step up and take the penalty, which takes a lot of bottle. Didi, I've asked you this question before, but for new listeners, and we've plenty of them, when you were walking up from the centre circle to take that first penalty, how did you feel? Did you feel very nervous?
Well, I always felt that nervous is a negative energy. Being nervous, I would rather call it tense.
Yes,
of course you're tense because there's a lot of responsibility on the penalty, but at the same time you only got one chance, and I always compared it to school. In school, I was always or only nervous in topics where I wasn't any good or I didn't learn.
Yes.
Yeah. So whenever we had a test, I would be nervous.
Yes.
I was good in maths and chemistry. If we had a test in maths or chemistry, I was never nervous because I knew whatever is asked, I will be able to do it or I know it. And it's pretty similar there. You've got to back yourself to score a penalty from 12 yards, even though I know it's a very pressurized situation. But I think you have to try to blank it all out. Have in your mind what you want to do and then just try to execute. And if you miss it, you miss it. But if you do miss it for the right reasons, not because you're nervous or you think, oh my God, I can't miss it. Go there, commit.
And you put it high-ish.
Yeah. I read a thing of a couple of years before that if you put it above waist height, I think the chance is about 91 or something percent better to go in, because obviously all the penalties, if you look the penalties, most of all the penalties are saved on the deck, on the floor.
Yes,
so, try to hit the corner, and obviously I try to hit a certain height. I probably couldn't have placed it any better. So,
no, you couldn't. And then you went, phew, that's me. Okay, guys, go.
True, yeah.
Anyway, it's a wonderful night that everyone, and particularly Liverpool fans, remember, and it's just nice to remember it with you. Now, last night, you saw the two games. Let me talk to you first about the Liverpool game. They have a stunning record. They are a really top team. Giving a goal away against Atletico in Madrid is, after 4 minutes, makes it tough. They were missing a few players. Felix and Costa weren't starting for them. But I thought Liverpool got back in the game and did okay, but they were fighting a team of lions who were well organised. It was a massive game, wasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think Atletico was excellent because they have really struggling in the league. They're fourth, they're 12 or 13 points off. They have to fight to stay in the Champions League places.
Yes.
And it was a huge game, and as you said, they missed a few key players, and I think they've been excellent. I don't think Liverpool had one shot on target in the 90 minutes.
They didn't.
That shows how well they did defend Atletico. And if you go one down against Atletico early on, you know what they're going to do. They defend with 10 players. That's what they did. And Liverpool just found it very hard to break them down. And it was, in the end, probably a deserved win of Atletico.
Yeah, Jurgen Klopp took Sané off wisely, I think, because it seemed that Atletico had targeted him, knowing he's got a short fuse. Better get him off, isn't it, and risk a red card and miss him for the home game.
Yeah, and he said afterwards that the defender took him out, so I think there was a minor injury as well. I don't think it was anything serious, but I think he was booked in the first half and he got a knock as well, so I think the combination of the two was the reason he came off.
Yeah, Mo Salah had a couple of chances. One very good chance in the first half, a header in the second half, which was pretty good chance as well. But you couldn't. Would you agree with me, Didi? I thought Liverpool, after the first 10 minutes, goal down, they worked their way back into the game and they controlled the game. They controlled the football for most of the game, and I thought it was a good performance. It wasn't as if, they were rolled over or anything like that. They responded like a good team.
Yeah, they did, and we know, they're the holders and they are the benchmark at the moment. So yeah, I think they've done okay without, what was missing was the final pass.
Yes.
They had a very good chance of Salah, the header he missed, and then towards the end they had a good chance with Henderson.
Yes.
If he goes on target, it probably goes in, but both missed the target by half a yard. But yeah, they carried on doing what they're doing, and I think that's one of the big strengths, that they've got a huge self-belief. On the other hand, you've got to say that their away record in the Champions League in recent times is terrible. I think they lost 7 out of the last 10 or 11 games now.
Yeah.
Even when they won the Champions League last year, they lost all 3 group games in the Champions League. So it's a bit of a, the away struggle is nothing new. They had the problems away from home in the last 18 months, but they've got a game at home in 3 weeks' time, and I've got every confidence in them that they can turn it over. But I don't think it'll be a walk in the park, because that Atletico team, maybe with 1 or 2 more players who will be fit by then,
yes,
we know how hard it is to break them down.
Yeah, and Anfield nights. And the crowd last night for Atletico were very, very up for it, and Simeone was leading cheerleading, but Anfield will match that and probably better it. However, a 1-0 defeat away from home with no away goal is very dangerous, because if Atletico score at Anfield, then Liverpool need 3. So it is a pretty demanding task they have.
Yeah, it's a tricky task and a tricky game, because if you have to pick one team in the Champions League, you want to defend for yourself, it will probably be Atletico, because they are the masters of it. They're the masters of the dark art, as I think you said once.
Yes,
and they do better than anybody else. On the other hand, they lost to Barcelona 3-0 last year. Liverpool took him back to Anfield and beat him 4. So I think they will be confident they're going to turn it over, but it's a tricky tie, because everybody is probably expecting Liverpool to turn it over after what happened last year.
Yes,
and I don't think it'll be an easy task.
No, it's an entirely different problem that Atletico will pose. Now, the other Champions League game last night, a fascinating game, Borussia Dortmund against PSG, and the Dortmund team contains 2 players we're fascinated by here. Erling Haaland, son of Alf-Inge Haaland. I saw him play for Red Bull when he was playing in Austria. He played against Liverpool, in fact. He looks strong, powerful, and he's made a sensational start at Dortmund. And of course the other one is Jadon Sancho, who's English. In fact, Haaland was born in England as well. So how good are these guys? Last night's performance, obviously, against PSG, 2-1 victory. Let's take Haaland first, Didi. He scored 10 Champions League goals. I think he's scored 38 goals for the season so far. Can he go all the way? Is he the real deal?
No, he's an excellent player, and he's walking on water at the moment. He came to Dortmund. He scored in every game so far. And he's full of confidence, and he's just a guy that failing is is not possible for him. He's such a confident young lad, and he's a man mountain, as you said. He's 19 years of age. He's 6'4" or 6'5", and he's quick as well. I think that's his biggest asset. He's a quick player. He's got a good strike on him, as we've seen yesterday. And I think what makes him special is that he scores all sorts of goals. He scores from outside the box yesterday. He scores a poacher's goals yesterday, the first one. And he's very clever with his runs, because I've watched him now for 5 or 6 games. I don't think I've ever seen him run offside. And very often we see young players They go too early and they're offside half a yard. And in days gone by, you could do it and maybe try to trick the linesman. But with VAR, as we know, if you're offside, you're offside. The goal won't be given. So he's a clever player. How far he can go, I don't know. I think he's got to improve technically.
Right.
But the impact he's had in a short space of time is sensational, I've got to say.
Yeah, and of course he did turn down Manchester United, which is interesting, to go to the Bundesliga, which is interesting as well. Jadon Sancho, he has played for England, and again, people are raving about him. Owen Hargreaves was raving about him on television last night, but Owen Hargreaves is always raving about people on television. So that's why I wanted to ask you, Didi, how good is he?
Yeah, no, he's an outstanding player, and I think apart from Mbappe, I think he's probably the highest value player at the moment. I think that's how good he is. He's quick, he's powerful. He scored 12 or 13 goals now. I think he's got 12 or 13 assists. He hasn't reached 20s. He's still 19 years of age, and I think the difference to Håland is because he had a quiet spell. Last season, Sancho, he played well and then he had a quiet spell, then he came back strong. He did the same this year. He had a few disciplinary issues where he's been late or came back late from an England game, but they had a word with him, and he's just terrific. And he's, as I say, he had a spell where he wasn't that good. He came back from it. And the way he beats players, because there's not many players these days who can beat a player with a skill. But he does. He drops a shoulder, he goes the other way, and he's gone. He's 2-footed, quick, very, very. His trickery is terrific, and I think it'll be very hard for Dortmund to keep him in the summer. And I would imagine that all the big clubs in England would like to have him next season.
And do you think he'd do it? Do you think, in the case of both of them, they'd both do it in the Premier League, in your opinion, if they went to the right club?
Oh, Sancho, 100%. Haaland, he's done well in Austria. He's here now, so I think he would do well, or could do with another season in another league. But of course, if he carries on scoring as he does, then I think the Premier League clubs will be asking for his services as well. But I think it was a great move by his dad, by his management team, by him to come to Dortmund, because I think if you go to Manchester United now, I wouldn't put a young player in there at the moment, because things are not going good. And I think for his development, he made the right call. Right.
Now, just in general in the Bundesliga, I want to talk to you in a moment about other more serious things. The Bundesliga this year, I note that Bayern Munich are a point ahead of Leipzig, who come to play Spurs tonight in the Champions League. How good a league is it, Didi, at the moment? I know that our friend from Bayern Munich, the centre forward, is doing really well. And
Lewandowski,
having a really good season. Where are Bayern?
Well, Bayern, when they've got everybody available, I think they've got a very good side, and I think they are contenders. Obviously, I think if Liverpool were to go out of competition, I think the Champions League is wide open. Yes. And if they do go out, you probably have 8 teams in the quarterfinal, where all 8 have a legitimate chance to win it. I think it's a terrific competition this year, and Bayern Munich is one of the teams, because if they've got everybody available, Coman and Gnabry, the wingers, have got an injury record. They are both playing at the moment. They're both back, and it's just a very even league this year. Leipzig's been 4 points ahead at the winter break. They lost that advantage. They're 1 behind now, and we've seen that yesterday. Dortmund, they deservedly beat Paris. I think they've been the better side. They deserve to win it. I think they've got a great chance to go through now.
Just a word about Mbappe and Neymar last night. How did Mbappe appear to you?
Mbappe tried. It was hard, because every time he got the ball, there were 2-3 players around him. He set the goal up great. It was a great move.
Yeah.
And Neymar just had an open goal to score from about 4 or 5 yards. So Mbappe really made the goal. Neymar was terrible. It was a lackluster it seemed like he's not interested. He lost. I think he lost about half the balls he's had. And
yes.
I was very, very disappointed. People talk about him as being the third best player, and they even name him or mention him in the same breath as Messi and Ronaldo. He's nowhere near. He's nowhere near the play. He's had a couple of good years in Barcelona where he played with Xavi, Iniesta, and Messi. Others have done that, and he's nowhere near. And I don't understand all the hype about him. He's got a lot of injuries. He's injured a lot. And if you look at him since he's gone to Paris, I think it's been disastrous. They got knocked out of the Champions League twice in the last 16. And they win the league, yes, because they've got by far the best team. But I think that all that hype and talk about Neymar is a myth.
Yes, and he's a playboy as well. I noted he had his birthday party, an all-white affair in a nightclub in Paris last Sunday week, and they had a match on the Tuesday. The party ended at 3 a.m. Not what you want, is it, Didi?
No, I wish we were invited. It would have been all right then.
And it wouldn't have ended at 3 a.m. Okay, Didi. Now the serious stuff. I want to talk to you first about VAR. You were against it from the get-go. I was for it. John Giles was for it. I think Liam was somewhere in between. But you were adamant that this would be bad for football. It would slow the game down. I'm beginning to think that you were right. Certainly as it is being applied in the Premier League, it has almost destroyed the game. It's so badly applied. Now, the principle seems okay, but the interpretation by the people in the box is invariably wrong. First of all, let me ask you about how it's being applied in the Bundesliga.
Well, the thing that disappoints me, I was, as you said, I was anti from the start, because I thought if you look at subjective decisions, whether a ball hit the hand or whether a player's been tripped, it's very rarely black and white in football. And I think once the decision is made, I think 99% of the time you have to stay with the decision, even though it may not be the right decision. But the VAR should only go in when it's a blatant mistake by the referee.
That's right, and it was in the rules of VAR or in the thing as they laid it out. It was to correct clear and obvious mistakes. And that's not happening.
No, that's not happening. They go in far too early. What disappoints me now, we're in the third season now. We're in the third season and we talk about the same things, maybe more than we did in the first season.
Yes.
And what I don't understand, the Germans went in first, and they were just badly prepared. I don't think they were ready to do it. And it's everybody loves the Bundesliga. Everybody loves football.
Right.
And they go in and there's so many unanswered questions. And now in the third season we are talking about the same things you're talking in England.
Yes.
And it's not going any better. And if I see progress, I'd be the first one to hold my hand up and say,
of course, yes.
Listen, it's getting better. I think one or two more things, and I think we could be there. We're in a good path. We're not. I'm reading this morning that Arsene Wenger wants to change the offside rule.
Yes.
That when any part of your body is in line with the last defender, which I think would make sense. It's been badly applied. I agree. I think we also have a quality problem because I think it's different refereeing a game,
yes,
or refereeing a game in front of a screen. And we had some dreadful decisions this year. And I can understand or accept when a referee makes a mistake on the pitch.
Yes.
I can't accept when somebody looks at it 10 times and still makes the wrong call.
Yes.
That's what we've had a lot of numerous times this year again. So I don't know where this is going.
Yeah, and if the Germans can't get it right, nobody can. But I just want to say that on the offside thing, what Arsene Wenger has proposed in the last 24 hours, which is that if any part of your body is onside, you're okay. rather than this. It really came into play last week when the Wolves lost the match, but most glaringly in the quarter-final of Champions League last year, Sergio Aguero's bootlace was offside, and City were out of the Champions League. But John Giles and Graham Souness as well, they both believed the Wenger thing. But that's only, as you say, that's curing one little problem with the offside, maybe. But it'll apply the other way as well. Your toe will be on. Yeah, so
absolutely.
It's a mess. Do you think we should? No, it is a mess, and I was one of its great sort of supporters at the start. You think, forget it?
Well, I think it's very hard because, you need to look at it. One thing is, I think you need to train people who sit in the box and watch the game on the screen. I think you've got specially trained people for that. But you need a football knowledge for that, because sometimes when you look at it, when you have played the game, you have a different take than referees. Maybe can it be reformed? I'm not too sure. I think we have to cut it down what we can, what we look at. You can't look at that everything. I think people talk about the challenge system, that every coach can use 1 or 2 challenges per.
Yes, I agree with
half.
that. Yes,
but if I think it's here now, so I think it's here to stay. I can't see any way, because UEFA and FIFA tell us at every opportunity how well it's doing, which is in my opinion not true. And I just think that we gained very little. Because I don't think it makes the game fairer, and we lost a lot. Because when people don't celebrate when they score, they look to the linesman, they look to the fourth official, to the ref, whether they can celebrate or not. Yeah, I don't think it's not what the game is all about. Okay,
I think that's probably very wise. But we'll see what happens with that. Now, Didi, you former Manchester City player, a club I know you have deep feelings for. However, the revelations that we've seen the full revelations for the first time in the last few days here, but the investigations have been going on for a very long time. It was Der Spiegel, the German magazine, that first published the damning evidence that has led to Manchester City being banned by UEFA for the next 2 seasons from playing in the Champions League. They were also fined £25 million sterling, and of course the financial penalty for not being in the Champions League, and other collateral damage is catastrophic for the club. What's your opinion about this, Didi?
Well, they've been fined 6 years ago. In 2014, they've been fined 60 million euros, I think, with Paris Saint-Germain. And, UEFA, I think, made it clear that they keep an eye on them. They brought financial fair play in a few years ago. And the clubs were asked not to spend more than they make. And if they have fiddled with the numbers, which we have to believe UEFA, that there was a drastic failure of getting the right numbers to UEFA, then I've got to say there have to be sanctions at some stage. And if you keep breaking the law, then at some stage you will have a problem. And I think that's where we are. I'm still. I believe it when I see it. I was surprised that they come down so hard on City, and they still have the opportunity, obviously, to go to CAS, to the next higher.
That's the Court of Arbitration for Sport in Lausanne in Switzerland. However, I have to say, I've seen the evidence, Didi. You're allowed to spend 25 million more than you generate in sponsorship or transfers or whatever way clubs generate money. But these guys didn't just break the rules, they smashed them. And the latest news we have today is that this sanction UEFA have imposed only is for things that were done before 2016. A new investigation is now beginning into things they did between 2016 and the present time. So it looks like, and also the other reason the sanction was so severe is that Manchester City refused to cooperate with the investigation entirely. In fact, they said they'd go to war, and they said they are going to war with UEFA now. The question I want to ask you is, and I want to get your opinion on the whole thing, because I agree with you completely. There have to be rules. They have to be fair to everybody, and you can't have Abu Dhabi, which is has limitless wealth, to come in and smash all the rules of our game, and that's what they appear to have done. Now the question is Pep Guardiola and his players. You feel sorry for the fans of Manchester City, of course. You feel sorry for the players, and Guardiola, obviously, because you saw him at Munich. He's not going to stay, is he, Didi, in these circumstances?
Well, he came out yesterday and he said even if they put him in League Two, he's staying. He said this is a time where we have to stick together. Well, it remains to be seen whether he stays or not. I don't know, but if you say this is only for failings before 2016, then I think there's a chance we may not see them again. Because they made 90 million, I think, in the Champions League last year. They will have sponsorship deals in place where they get an extra bonus or extra money when they compete in the Champions League, which is not the case now for 2 years.
Yes.
And if what they did is so bad that they say they ban them for 2 years and maybe for the last 4 years there's an extra sanction on top of it, I think it puts the club at serious risk, because I think as a player, you need to see maybe one of them. It might. I don't think they will, because it's obviously a very bad situation for the club. But I think potentially somebody might go to court and say he wants to leave for free, because the Champions League football that's been promised is not here now because the club failed to stick with the rules. So it's a tricky situation with them. I think it's a time now for UEFA and for the other clubs to stand together, because I agree with you. If we put FFP, financial fair play, in place, everybody has to obey to it. And if somebody breaks the rules, then there has to be a sanction. And I think it's a very important time for European football, for world football, because it's been changing a lot in recent years, for everybody to stick together now and support UEFA. Because I think there has to be a sanction, and City may not be the only club that will get punished in the near future.
Yes, and I totally agree with you, because the extent of and it's interesting that in the last 18 months or 12 months, 18 months, they've been very careful in the transfer market. They didn't go out and buy Van Dijk, for example. They didn't buy Harry Maguire. They clearly need defenders, but they didn't do it. Now, there's one other thing, a final thing, really, Didi. We were talking to Liam and John the other day, and Liam made the point, and it resonated with me. Liam made the point that for quite some time now, for most of this season, Guardiola hasn't looked happy. He's been looked on the touchline, at times disinterested, at times animated, but to a crazy extent. But there's been a feeling of him that maybe he's had enough. And there's been a feeling of the team too. They're not pressing the way they used to, nothing like they did last year. And that amazing run of results they had last year to win the league by a point from Liverpool seems to have taken something out of them. And it reminded me of something you told me about a year ago, that the same wearying effect, because of the stress involved, because of the intensity of Guardiola, had been a factor at Bayern Munich. Is that right?
Yeah, three years. Yeah. Well, what Liam said, yes, I agree with him, but on the other hand, I don't think he looks happy very often. No. So he always has a grim face on him. That's just the way he is when the games are on. After 3 years here, the players were worn out. and they were happy for a change because he was so demanding that it affected their performances.
Yes.
And simply, I think they were happy. They said he was an outstanding manager, but they were happy to see the back of him. And I think we see a similar scenario in Manchester City now. And you have to say, there will be more things coming out, what they did, how they did it. But if you look at the players they bought, if you look at the money they spent in recent years,
yes,
he's gone there to win the Champions League. He didn't go past the semis. And you've got to say that he hasn't been a success in Manchester. That was his task.
Yeah.
And he couldn't do it. So I think he probably thinks that the way his team plays now, that his time in Manchester comes to an end. It might change now. Maybe he stays another year or two to show his loyalty to the club. But I don't think Guardiola and Manchester City obviously won't win the Champions League now if they are banned for the next 2 years. Even if it's overturned, I can't see him winning the Champions League, even if they were able to compete in the next 1 or 2 years in the Champions League. I don't think he'll ever win it there now.
No, and I have to tell you, Didi, that they've gone backwards this year in quite a big way. It's just a final thought. It's very important that they don't win the Champions League this year. I think UEFA will be cheering for Real Madrid, who I think will beat them anyway. But if they were to win it this year, it would be a severe embarrassment.
Yeah, it would be an awkward situation. But yeah, they maybe I was thinking sometimes these things can bring people and clubs and players closer together.
Yeah,
if you go into the dressing room now, I think they'll probably be saying, we'll show you, even though it's got nothing to do with the players, what the club did. But sometimes these things can galvanize a team, and I don't think they will. But we'll see. It'll be a fascinating game against Madrid.
Okay, I want to have a bet on the Spurs Leipzig game tonight. And speaking of Bayern Munich, what they did to Spurs at the new stadium, White Hart Lane, we'll call it for now, was spectacular. 7-1. Who should I back tonight? Leipzig, Spurs, the draw?
I don't know how they priced it up, but Leipzig won't get beat.
Okay, thanks, Didi. And you get a fee as well.
Yeah.
I'm very grateful to you, Didi, for joining us. It's always a pleasure to talk to you.